Before we get into the event tomorrow, you wanted to jump in on this education piece because we were talking about how much tuition is, and Harvard has the audacity to be online only and still charge a $54,000 a semester.
Yeah, it's criminal.
Whew.
It's criminal. We should take United States higher education before the world court and charge them with crimes against their own people. It's genocide. It's 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 the ugliest part of this beautiful country. I love America. I'm not moving to any other country, but this is a crime. And the Lord knows we need political leaders that have the courage to say it. We need corporate leaders that will use their influence to change higher education. It's an absolute crime. And by the way, in addition to being virtual, a lot of our young people have been virtual in that they have never met a real professor anyway. They go to these large lecture halls, taught by these high-paid PhDs, and then they interact with interns and graduate assistants. It's a real ripoff, and I think history will not be kind to America for what the government is promoting as higher education.
Well, I mean, you called it genocide, though. Don't you think that's a little harsh? And it's Harvard and Princeton and Yale. Those are private institutions. That's not a government.
It's not harsh because you cannot discharge student loans. I've got people now writing me letters. They have $100,000, $200,000 in student loan debt. A real estate developer can go bankrupt, file bankruptcy, and walk away. Yeah, the student can file bankruptcy, and the student loan will stay with them after they die. The student loan will come to the funeral and sit with the family, come back for repayment. You cannot get rid of a student loan. So how fair is that? And it's a whole generation that are bought into the idea that student loan debt is good debt because you're buying an education, you're buying an experience, you're buying contacts. It is one of the biggest lies told to a whole generation in this country. Our parents were not saddled with student loan debt until they died. This generation is strapped with over $1 trillion of student loan debt, and it is impactful enough to call genocide.
Wow.
Amen to that, Dr. Soaries. I found a couple of numbers just to kind of like help illustrate this issue because, the cost of tuition has risen exponentially over the last 2 decades. It's not just, cost of living or anything. University of Virginia raised tuition 74% between 2009 and 2016. They have a $2.3 billion fund in reserves. If you look at Cal State, they built a 166,000 square foot performing arts center that cost $125 million. These are the types of things that these universities, who are, again, looking a lot more like corporations without any of the organization or the lack of waste or any of the oversight that even a corporation would have to be more efficient, they're academics. I don't know if you guys worked at an academic institution ever. It is the worst bureaucratic nightmare you could ever imagine. I've done it several times, and it is a very difficult experience. What we've done to students and saddled them with debt, I can tell you, not everyone has been as fortunate. I think it's me where I've, been fortunate to make a good amount, so I've been able to pay things down. But it has kept me from taking and making decisions and taking risks that I would have wanted to have taken. There is an existential weight on me with the amount of debt that I lobbed onto myself. And no one spoke. If Dr. Soaries saw me before I got to law school, I would have never went because I would have really understood how much, because I would have first of all had Dr. Soaries talk to my mother, and that would have also settled it, I think, as well, because it's just too expensive.
Because that's really it. We're pushing our kids into becoming these things, right? And so because it defines you, you think that is what is going to make you successful in this country. So law school has a price. Grad school has a price. And, I teach, I taught at NYU, which was a big price tag. And now I teach at a public school, CUNY at Hunter College. And it's I think, not a much better education, but it's comparable, and it's maybe a fourth of the price. And so
Right.
if you're in state like this, it shouldn't cost an arm and a leg or a fortune. You shouldn't have to be paying it until you're dead. That Barack Obama was still paying student loan debt when he was running for president.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
He finished it when he was still.
How is it a crime?
When he was in office.
It's long term. It's a threat to our economy. If having an educated workforce, meaning having people with skills that are qualified to run the economy, then we're pricing. First of all, we're pricing education out, and secondly, the education that we're giving is not preparing young people to run the world. The courses you could take a 19-year-old, put him in a 6-month coding course. He'll come out working in technology for $70,000, $80,000 a year with no degree in anything. Yet you can take someone and pay $120,000 for a 4-year college education, and they end up driving an Uber. No, it's a total mismatch, and higher ed is a criminal enterprise.
Wow. That's Dr. Soaries saying that, not me.
Amen.
I want deniability. He said it's a criminal enterprise. 866-801-8255.
Views expressed by the show's producers and its guests are not necessarily those of Karen Hunter or SiriusXM.
That's right. So moving forward, because I know there are people out there that are 19. Cena wanted to be a comedian, like a world class, which he's very funny. But now you're in business. You're not even using your law degree that you have all of this debt for. What are the industries, Dr. Soaries, if you were right now, raising kids again, where would you steer your children right now? Besides coding?
Certainly technology. Technology holistically, whether it's artificial intelligence or virtual reality. Technology is all pervasive. And the reality is all of us need basic technology skills. Right now, we're on Zoom. 6 months ago, most of us had not even heard of Zoom. But technology has now infiltrated our existence, and everybody needs a basic level of technological skills. In terms of industries, the healthcare industry is not going anywhere. And, the pandemic is not getting better. We're getting sicker and sicker, and there's a shift in the way we deliver healthcare. Right now in America, there are 1 million vacant nursing jobs that we can't fill before the pandemic because we don't have nursing schools that are recruiting students that need this kind of training, and we're not matching fourth graders with careers in healthcare. So I'd be aiming them in healthcare. Communications is shifting, but the one thing we know humans will have to do, and that is to communicate with other humans. And as the shifts occur, we went from wire to broadband, and now from broadband we've got satellite. We've got all kinds of connectivity, but global communications will always be critical. And whether you're inside the industry or supporting that industry, there'll always be room in communications. So healthcare, technology, communications are industries that are growth industries. Do you know that in February, Zoom's stock was $71 a share? Today, right now, Zoom's stock is $251 a share.
Wow. Man, had we invested, if we had just gotten 100 shares,
right?
Who knew? Somebody knew.
Yeah,
866-801.
Program knew, because you see, if we have to pay attention. It's the day we knew we were not going to be able to have church on Sunday and have school on Monday and go to work on Tuesday. That was the day we were supposed to send the word out by Zoom. And the people in my program know that because we teach people to pay attention to what's happening in the economy. Now, listen, I'm all for the dismantling of symbols. I'm all for that. I don't think the Confederate flag should be flown. I don't think the statue celebrating Confederate generals should be up. But if I have a half hour a day to spend, I'm going to spend that half hour focusing on the trends so that I can figure out what's the next Zoom rather than the flags, because I can get rich with the Confederate flag flying, and I can stay broke without the Confederate flag. So I told the kids on the Breakfast Club, yesterday. I was woke and broke. I'd rather not be broke than to be woke.
Well, you're here.
866-801-8255. Dr. Soaries is here. Sina Ghaznavi. Sina, you had something to ask or add?
I just wanted to add, just to kind of build on Dr. Soaries talking about technology and those different types of things that people should be learning right now. One of the areas that's really growing a lot are being able to use these game engines to build experiences. So Unity is one, and the Unreal game engine is the other. If anyone's thinking about getting into those programs, that's basically how every video game, a lot of movies, TV shows, that's how they're all going to be built. And the Unreal game engine has been around for 20 plus years. I mean, they built video games when I was just like a little kid. If you go to the Unreal website, I'm actually doing this for myself right now because, as Dr. Soaries said, I'm looking at trends and what's coming in the future. And if I'm running a media business, I got to know that that's where I'm going to have to be building things in the future. I'm actually taking the class that they have on their website. You know what? How much it costs? $0.
Free.
They have an entire library of courses that you could take, and I'm trying to do that for myself right now because, as you said, Karen, I'm not using my law degree, so I might as well keep learning all the other stuff. But if people want to get into that, I highly recommend it. It is going to just punish everyone else that isn't actually using those tools right now.
Yeah, but, I disagree with Karen to an extent. I understand what you mean, Karen. He's not using his degree. But there are certain analytical skills, certain research skills. There's a discipline involved in legal education. And so you don't have to be admitted to the bar and have a law license to use your law degree, just like my master's degree is in theology, but I don't spend as much time doing theological research as I do financial research. But the skills involved in achieving that accomplishment are transferable to whatever area you want to pursue.
I wasn't decrying his degree. I was just decrying that $200,000 in debt or whatever it was at the time was not worth the degree. I think you can get a law degree without spending or being in debt $200,000. That's what's not worth it to me. The degree is absolutely worth it. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, that's
866-801. Okay, 866-801-8255. So let me take this couple of calls, and I might have to hold you over because Albert in Iowa is on. Right. Welcome. Hey, Albert.
Well, thank you. Hey, how y'all doing today?
We're good.
Oh no, nothing. I'm just, I got in the car and I'm listening to what the good doctor said, and it just kind of hit me the wrong way. He talked about higher education as being pretty much a sham. I think that's not reality. And I understand that that's not a popular way of looking at life today, as going through the traditional path of higher education, especially being so expensive. But I think that's what has gotten us, that frame of thinking, as well as has gotten us to the point we have Trump. Because higher education does a lot more than just put us in debt. It creates critical thinking. And if we had more critical thinkers out there, then we could break down the rhetoric that Trump and his cronies have always presented to us, and we won't just buy that, buy the message.
Albert, thank you for your call. DeForest Soaries, what do you say to that, Dr. Soaries?
Well, let me start with the Trump piece. White people with college degrees voted for Trump more than they voted for Hillary Clinton. So, as far as I'm concerned, all of that critical thinking that comes automatically from a college education is mythology. That's number one. Number two, I have 3 earned degrees. And the caller said that I called higher education a sham. I did not call it a sham. I called it a criminal enterprise. When you take money from people under the guise of a lie, that's criminal. When you have billions of dollars in the bank, yet you charge people more than they can afford for something that they'll never be able to pay off, that's criminal. When you create an atmosphere where people will incur not only financial debt, but physiological pain, emotional pain, psychological pain, spiritual pain, when debt is the contributor to all of those problems, what I'm saying is that the model, the financial construct, the economic theory behind higher education, charging the kind of money they do for students who have to borrow the money and never be able to pay it back, that is criminal. So, no, it's not a sham. I believe in critical thinking, but there are ways to learn critical thinking besides borrowing $60,000 to spend 9 months on campus to hear from one or two professors and engage with graduate assistants and read the same books you can get from the library for free. So it's criminal. It's not a sham.
Okay.
It's just criminal.
I think you handled that very well.
Took care of that one.
All right. I completely understand. All right, let's move on. Tiffany in Long Island, you're on with Dr. DeForest Soaries. Welcome.
Hi. Love the show. Thank you. I'm in the car with my teenage boys, and we're listening. Very interesting. I was going to say that I'm a nurse, so for me, I think, from my standpoint, I think the next thing to watch as this pandemic plays out is home care. Everybody's pulling their loved ones out of the nursing homes if they can, and taking care of them and hiring staff.
Okay, I think that is
a big amen. I have a meeting at 7:30 tonight with a group of people about starting the only black-owned home health care agency in New Jersey. 7:30 tonight.
Wow. And this is what I love about you, which people don't know, and this is why it's so important. You know, yes, you're on For Your Soul. You kick off the Sunday lineup right here on 126. But the reason why I thought it was important to have you on this channel is because of the way in which you approach, you very spiritually, very lovingly, this thing called debt. And, you know, and that you build, you put your money where your mouth is, right? So you don't just talk about building, you're doing it. You're doing it. You have a nursing home in Somerset that has your name on it. I saw it with my own two eyes. There's schools, there's hospitals, there are all of these things that you helped to create, affordable housing. There are condos. Like you created a community out of whole cloth. You did that, and now you're putting together a group of people to have the first black home healthcare facility in this is amazing.
In New Jersey, yeah.
In New Jersey.
But see, again, I have 3 earned degrees, but all of the developments that you saw, our senior housing, our healthcare agency, this meeting tonight about home health care, I did not learn how to do any of these things in college, in my master's program, or my doctoral program. So sure, my education has helped form who I am in part, but my critical thinking that has resulted in physical outcomes for people came from experience.
How do we teach that, right? 'Cause one of the frustrations every day is realizing how much of a gap there is in that thing that you're talking about right now. That people go to school, and again, I've taught in the college system for the last 20 years. And what I see is that the kids come out of high school learning how to regurgitate information that has been told to them, but they don't, learn how to think through a problem. So I spend a great deal of the semester interacting with them differently than they're used to. And a lot of kids get freaked out. What do you mean there's no test? What do you mean there's no multiple choice? What do you mean? No, we're going to have to think through this problem. It's not going to be A, B, or C. I think there's an opportunity right now with COVID, with the schools being closed, to actually reimagine what education should look like, both secondary and higher education.
Well, I think everybody knows without saying it out loud that the best learning happens by exposure and by experience. There's no school to teach kids how to sell drugs, but they sell them. You don't go to class and take a test, on whether or not you'll be a good drug dealer. But what happens is young people are exposed, they're given the experience, it's trial and error, and they win. And so I just think we have to realign our culture and our educational systems to ensure that we have more experience and more exposure. When a trade union has an apprentice, they send them to work. They don't just send them to class. And we have to fix this, because when you travel around the world, when you go to China, children in 4th grade in China are speaking 3 languages. If you go to Egypt, children in Egypt are speaking 3 and 4 languages before they leave elementary school. And so this idea that we just have to help our children have fun and look good is going to put our entire country behind the 8 ball, and we're moving there quickly. So it's being willing to go outside the box and to stop acting like we're still training factory workers who only need to know how to get up in the morning, go to work, and move widgets all day for 40 years and then retire. Those days are gone, and they're not coming back.